Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Meta will stop fact-checking and appoint Dana White. President Trump's classified documents case and hush money case have some surprises, and the CCP is tightening its grip on Asia. Okay, let's get into it. After Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced his resignation yesterday, attention turned to Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre as the most likely candidate to take over as Prime Minister. Currently, the left-leaning Liberal Party is in power, but Liberal support continues to slide. The Conservative Party has nearly 3 times the support of committed voters at about 47% compared to 18% for the Liberals in this year's general election. As a result, Polymarket predicts that Poilievre has a 92% chance of becoming Canada's next Prime Minister. Poilievre has been dubbed Canada's Trump by the media because many of his policies are similar to those of President Trump. Let's listen to Poilievre's video remarks yesterday after Trudeau announced his resignation.
Now, while leaderless Liberals focus on saving their jobs and fighting each other for power, the country spirals out of control, an out-of-control housing emergency, an out-of-control migrant crisis, an out-of-control $62 billion deficit, not to mention tariff threats from the United States. Oh, and another NDP Liberal carbon tax hike kicks in this April 1st. Everything's out of control, and now the government is out of control. This cannot go on. We need a carbon tax election now to choose between the NDP Liberal costly coalition that taxes your food, punishes your work, doubles your housing costs, and unleashes crime and drugs in your community, or common sense Conservatives who will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Canadians can take back control of their lives and their country, take back control of our border, take back control of immigration, take back control of spending, deficits, and inflation. Take back control of our streets by locking up criminals, banning drugs, treating addiction, and stopping gun smugglers. We'll cap spending, axe taxes, reward work, build homes, uphold family, stop crime, secure borders, rearm our forces, restore our freedom, and put Canada first.
Common sense Conservative and put Canada first. Doesn't it sound like Trump is in Canada? Poilievre advocated for expanded oil and gas production while opposing Trudeau's failed immigration policy. The policy has led to an influx of hundreds of thousands of people into Canada, adding pressure to an already overheated housing market. However, the Canadian Conservative leader is not a fan of President Trump's recent comments about making Canada the 51st state. In an interview before Christmas, Poilievre said, "I have the strength and the smarts to stand up for this country, and my message to incoming President Trump is that, first and foremost, Canada will never be the 51st state of the U.S. Poilievre also said that President Trump negotiates very aggressively and he likes to win. But the Conservative leader said that he would seek a great deal that will make both countries safer, richer, and stronger. The Conservative leader said that his country would also embark on the biggest crackdown on crime in Canadian history and that habitual offenders will not get out of jail anymore. On foreign affairs, he said that the government would close the gaps related to illegal entries into Canada and recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. New York State Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan has denied President Trump's request to postpone the sentencing decision in the hush money case. Merchan insists that a verdict be announced on January 10th. On Monday morning, President Trump's lawyers filed a motion asking the court to stay the sentencing pronouncement, then argued that because President Trump is seeking an appeal, it means that the court proceedings should be automatically stayed. President Trump's filing states the court should vacate the sentencing hearing scheduled for January 10th, 2025, and suspend all further deadlines in the case until President Trump's immunity appeals are fully and finally resolved, which should result in a dismissal of this case, which should have never been brought in the first place. However, in a ruling released on Monday night, Merchan declined to postpone the January 10th sentencing decision. In his ruling, Judge Merchan wrote, "This court has considered defendants' arguments in support of his motion and finds that they are, for the most part, a repetition of the arguments he has raised numerous times in the past." Merchant has already said that he will not sentence the president-elect to prison and instead issue a sentence of an unconditional discharge, which means there would be no punishment imposed. Likewise, today, U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon blocked the release of Special Counsel Jack Smith's final report on President Trump in the classified documents case. The report accuses President Trump of illegally retaining sensitive materials after leaving office. The reason Judge Cannon blocked the release was because an appeals court still needs to decide on this matter. Cannon's order bars Special Counsel Jack Smith and the Department of Justice from releasing the report until the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has reviewed a motion. This motion was submitted by President Trump's co-defendants. This week, President Trump's co-defendants, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, asked Judge Cannon to prevent the release of Smith's report in the classified documents case. The two co-defendants also noted in court papers that Jack Smith's appeal of the dismissal of charges against them is still pending, so the disclosure of the information about them would be prejudicial. Axios interviewed President Trump's incoming White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. In the interview, Wiles praised President Biden's White House Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, for helping President Trump's transition team during the job transition. Wiles said that Jeff Zients has been very helpful. He has made great suggestions, helped make sure we stay on time with required functions, helped us navigate the labyrinth that is the executive office of the president, and been very professional. He introduced me to the former Chief of Staff Club and even hosted a dinner at his beautiful home. Last November, President Trump traveled to the White House to meet with Biden after his election. During the meeting between the two leaders, only Wiles and Zients were present. Wiles has earned President Trump's respect for her unique way of working with him. So what's the trick? Wiles said that she tries not to manage President Trump. What she manages is the campaign, not the candidate. If she disagrees with President Trump, it's not done in front of anyone and it does not leak. Speaking of her staffing criteria, Wiles emphasized teamwork. She said, "To my core, I believe in teamwork. Anyone who cannot be counted on to be collaborative and focused on our shared goals isn't working in the West Wing." Facebook's parent company Meta has added 3 new members to its board of directors. This includes UFC CEO Dana White, who is a close ally of President Trump. The other 2 board members are John Elkann, the executive chairman of Ferrari and Stellantis, and Charlie Songhurst, who served as head of global corporate strategy for Microsoft. Mark Zuckerberg said in a statement on Monday, Dana, John, and Charlie will add a depth of expertise and perspective that will help us tackle the massive opportunities ahead with AI wearables and the future of human connection. White said that he plans to leverage his brand-building expertise to help Meta navigate the competitive digital landscape. Dana White said in a statement that there's nothing I love more than building brands, and I look forward to helping take Meta to the next level. On Tuesday, Meta announced that it's ending its fact-checking program in the United States and replacing it with community notes, similar to X. Mark Zuckerberg said in a video, "It's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram." The fact-checking program started in 2016 after President Trump was first elected. Mark Zuckerberg said the fact-checkers have become too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they created, especially in the U.S. Community notes are based on feedback from users. Joel Kaplan, Meta's chief global affairs officer, said in his post, the notes empower their community to decide when posts are potentially misleading and need more context, and people across a diverse range of perspectives decide what sort of context is helpful for other users to see. Zuckerberg, who recently met with President Trump, said that Meta will be working with the president-elect Trump to push back against governments around the world that are seeking to censor people. Of course, this includes the Chinese Communist Party. Zuckerberg said it's been difficult during the Biden administration because even the U.S. government has been advocating for censorship, which he said has emboldened other governments. Last month, President Biden commuted the death sentences of 37 federal death row inmates by pardoning them. Among them, 2 inmates at the federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, refused to accept the pardons. So why is this? The 2 inmates, Shannon Agofsky and Len Davis, filed emergency motions on December 30th in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Indiana, asking the court for an injunction to prevent the commutation of their death sentences to life in prison. They stated that such a decision to reduce their sentences would put them at a disadvantage in future appeals, especially in cases involving appeals of innocence. Death penalty appeals are generally protected by a heightened scrutiny process, which is designed to scrutinize death penalty cases for judicial error as closely as possible. Accepting their commutations would remove the heightened scrutiny that death penalty appeals receive. Agofsky's filing reads, "To commute this sentence now while the defendant has active litigation in court is to strip him of the protection of heightened scrutiny." Another inmate, Davis, had also been arguing that a death sentence would draw attention to the Department of Justice's extensive misconduct. Agofsky's case is a bit complicated. He was convicted in the 1989 murder of Oklahoma Bank President Dan Short. At that time, Short's body was found in a lake, and federal prosecutors charged Agofsky and his brother Joseph Agofsky with kidnapping and murdering Short, then stealing $71,000 from the bank. The jury ultimately failed to convict Joseph Agofsky of murder, but sentenced him to life in prison for robbery. Shannon Agofsky, on the other hand, was sentenced to death for murder and robbery. In addition, Shannon Agofsky was additionally sentenced to death for the murder of fellow inmate Luther Plant while he was serving his sentence. Nevertheless, he insists that he is not guilty and is trying to prove his innocence through appeals. The case of Len Davis is equally compelling. He was a New Orleans police officer convicted of hiring a drug dealer to murder Kim Groves. Groves had previously accused Davis of assaulting a juvenile while in law enforcement. Prosecutors charged Davis with violating Groves' civil rights. Davis has always maintained his innocence and argued that federal court had no jurisdiction to try him for civil rights offenses, his filing reads. A federal appeals court tossed out Davis's original death sentence, but it was reinstated in 2005. Despite the 2 men's objections, constitutional scholars point out that it would be nearly impossible for them to reinstate the death penalty. Dan Coble, a constitutional law professor at Capital University Law School in Columbus, Ohio, explains that under the 1927 U.S. Supreme Court ruling, the president has the power to grant pardons or commutations of sentences and does not need to obtain the offender's consent. President Biden's pardon decision sparked intense social controversy. Human rights organizations and the anti-death penalty coalition applauded his decision as being consistent with his campaign promises. However, some critics argued that his compassion did not take into account the feelings of the victims and their families. The first human death from H5N1 avian influenza has been confirmed in Louisiana, USA. The deceased was a 66-year-old male with underlying health problems. He had been infected by direct contact with sick and dead birds from his backyard flock. Genetic analysis of the virus has revealed a mutation in the hemagglutinin HA gene, which experts say could enhance the virus's ability to infect humans. The Louisiana Department of Health emphasizes that there is currently no evidence of human-to-human transmission of the virus. This patient remains the only human case of H5N1 in Louisiana. However, they encourage people who work with birds, poultry, or cows, or have recreational exposure to them to wear respiratory and eye protection and gloves when dealing with sick or dead birds. For the general public, please try to avoid direct contact with wild birds and other animals that are infected with or suspected to be infected with bird flu viruses. The human metapneumovirus, HMPV, that is currently spreading in China is also causing concern in the United States The CDC is currently monitoring reports of increased cases of HMPV from the northern provinces of China. In an email statement to Nexstar on Monday, a spokesperson for the CDC wrote, CDC is aware of reported increases of HMPV in China and is in regular contact with international partners and monitoring reports of increased disease. In addition to the United States, neighboring countries of mainland China, such as India, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Cambodia, have also expressed concern about the virus. Authorities in Taiwan have revealed that a Chinese vessel recently cut an undersea fiber optic cable connecting Taiwan. The incident took place last Friday. A Cameroonian-flagged cargo ship from Hong Kong was found to have cut a submarine communication cable linking Taiwan and other countries. But the 7 crew members on board were Chinese nationals. Upon receiving the report, the Taiwan Coast Guard sent a small team to track the suspicious vessel and located it 9 hours later. However, it was not possible to board the vessel for inspection due to weather. The suspected vessel, Shunshin 39, then proceeded to the Korean port city of Busan. Taiwan authorities believe that the incident may be part of a gray area operation conducted by the Chinese Communist Party. It is unlikely that cable-cutting incidents aren't intentional, said Herming Chu, the deputy head of Taiwan's digital ministry. He said, you need to accidentally drop your anchor on the cable, and then you need to accidentally turn on your engine with the anchor down. And even if you realize your anchor is down, you need to keep the engine moving until you cut the cable. According to Ray Powell, a retired U.S. Air Force colonel and director of the Sea Light project at Stanford University, the ship has used at least 2 names, 2 different flags, and 6 different identification numbers in the past 6 months. China is engaged in a long-running, multifaceted pressure campaign to influence the people and leadership of Taiwan. Powell said, what Beijing wants to do is convince you that your cause is doomed. So you might as well just accept Beijing's terms, and then at least you won't have to shed blood over it. The Friday incident is one of a number of sabotage operations targeting critical infrastructure around the world. It comes shortly after another Chinese vessel was accused of dragging an anchor and cutting a cable in the Baltic Sea. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember that every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you. But please double check to make sure that you're still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they're somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We've also heard that many of you don't get notifications of our videos anymore on YouTube. So when you do subscribe on YouTube, please make sure to tap the notification bell as well. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.